Well, hello, hello, hello. There's no stopping us. No flu, cold, COVID, or anything is going to stop me this time around. I would not miss this episode of Association Transformation. Andrew, thank you for letting me have some time today. I know this is your guy. I'm glad I get to be here.
No, you're very welcome,
But
but you're extremely welcome. But as always, but you sound rough. You
I know
sound like you're struggling.
this is the deep voice.
I love
This
I
is
love how you listed off pretty much everything in the list of I've got a flu, COVID, maybe I've I mean you were literally laying it on
yeah,
thick there, Lise.
maybe strep. This is my urgent care voice, and you when you test negative and positive for everything, you just go with it. You just take all the pills, take them all. But anyway, I'm here. I would not miss this for anything. Dr. Michael Carr-Tatonetti, thank you. You're here.
Yes.
I didn't miss it this time.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes.
Founder
I'm
and
so glad you're
CEO
here.
of Pricing for Associations. So good to have you back, a member of the Association Transformation family. It's been too long.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thanks for coming back. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. And I'm glad you're here despite it. The gunk and that. I get it. But no, I'm doing well. It's been good. It's been about 2 years since I've been here. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to
Hmm.
be back and chat with you, Andrew and Elisa. So yeah, no, it's been a busy 2 years. It's been good. It's been good.
Very good. Well, I
Yeah.
know I have lots to ask, but specific to what the audience may need to know as it relates to your area of expertise.
Yeah.
All we hear about is how people have less time than ever and how things are so much more expensive. And the socioeconomics, the financial burdens on people have never been greater. So when we look at the membership model, we have dues and then we have all the other things that we ask them to pay for.
Yeah.
What are your clients needing from you lately? What are you seeing in this space as to how people balance the value of what we give our members, the need to have a margin,
Yes.
and also the sensitivities around affordability?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I This might be a big philosophical answer. But what I'm seeing is I think that we have almost tapped out membership a bit. I think that most memberships,
Whoa,
when
whoa,
I
whoa, 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 whoa. What do you
yeah,
mean? What does that even mean?
and like the pricing. Whenever I'm doing testing, it is not common. I don't know if I could think of a client off the top of my head where I was like, you can go up drastically on membership. You're way undercharging. Typically, especially the last 6 months, the answer is you're already premium, and they see that in attrition, and it's we need to chill a little bit here. I think that what's happened is we've maximized membership dues. We also don't have great cost to serve data. Like how much is it actually costing to pull this off? So we don't know profitability very well there. And I think the value is really low. Whenever I do assessments and exercises on value analysis on membership,
Is that
um,
both perceived and real?
definitely perceived.
Yeah.
Real, I would argue, because real, I would say, is a little bit subjective, right? Even though you can have data, I would say also real from my lens. Seeing across, over 100 associations at this point, I think
Yeah.
that we give the bare minimum. It's like discounts, maybe some digital CLE or CEUs or whatever the org is. It's maybe a publication, like it's so minimal for the price. And we've always done it this way. So I see more innovation and freshness in non-dues revenue where we're like, oh, what's new? I don't think anyone has really taken a wrecking ball to their membership. I have some clients that are kind of testing that, but they're afraid. They're
Is that
afraid.
are we afraid because I'm just can't as you're talking, Lisa and I did a piece of work recently. And one of the issues that the organization was suffering from is that they were starting from such a low position in real financial terms.
Mhm.
They'd basically shot themselves in the foot for the last 15, 20 years because they'd had some good times, they had cash in the bank. Let's spread the love. Let's make it as cheap and as affordable for our members as possible. they've kind of got themselves into circumstances now where actually they now need to invest year on year in way above inflation increases on their membership on their membership fee, and of course the value proposition in real terms hasn't kept up. So is that? I mean, for me, and that's actually an issue I've seen replicated across several organizations. And I wondered, is it that we're starting, when we're talking about the value and the value of the return on investment for membership fees, is it that we're already starting from a very difficult position anyway?
Yes, yeah, Andrew, yes, because that's price anchoring and perception value anchoring. It's saying this is what it's been, this is what I've paid, so why should I pay more? And that's where I think the perception is we're not going to pay much more. And then organizations are afraid to loop a ton of non-dues revenue into membership to beef up the value and justify. But there's also the case of what can the market bear? And what I mean by that, so one organization, I just met with their board yesterday. What we had found was their membership is around, I won't name names, but their membership is around $270 per year. They have certifications, different levels that range from about $200 to $700 every 3 years, depending on the maturity of the certification designation. What we found was that their members had a propensity and all in to spend about $950 per year. And it varied, but that was kind of the average. So when we're looking at the whole pie, does that mean that we move membership up to $950 and roll everything in? Maybe not. That seems very steep and it would easily get cut. The question is, do we stay at, let's say at 270 and keep giving the value that we've been giving? Do we go down to 100 and take a lot out and make it minimal, right? Like you're really just paying to be a part of the club and advocacy and voting rights and maybe a discount, on stuff, but that's it. So there could be, it's gray. There's no one size fits all to how do we fix this? But I agree. After COVID especially, I saw a lot of orgs that hadn't raised prices in 5 and then 10, 20 years. To your point, they lost the plot. Others had been raising, but to their detriment. And so it depends on the organization, but I think I don't see many that are in a good place. I'll put it that way. Everyone kind of seems like they're in a bit of a mess with dues.
So in that scenario that you gave, what was the purpose to have the conversation? Are they don't have enough reserve? They want to grow membership. I mean, I think we're forgetting what the point is. What problem are we trying to solve? And I know the client that Andrew referenced, just in my familiarity with it, they needed more money to fight the battles. They were somewhat advocacy driven. They wanted to serve their members in more ways, and they didn't have the resources to do so. What was your situation? What was the need to have this conversation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So interestingly enough, their problem, and a problem I've seen across other orgs consistently, is for them specifically, it was they were having consistency in certification renewals, but a drop in membership. So the pattern was every 3 years when it was renewal time, they would renew their membership for that 1 year to get the discount and get continuing ed. Then they were not a member the 2 years in between, meaning this is not really a membership organization. It is a certification organization that offers membership. And I think that's happening for a lot. We've had conversations in the space, I'm sure you all have too, where we're almost moving from saying member to customer. And I don't know that that's fully a bad thing. But what I do wonder long-term is we are membership organizations and we get our tax status for representing a constituency, right? And if we move to just customers, that may not be a good thing. So that was the problem, if you will.
That wherever we get the most of our money, is it really fair to say wherever the majority of our money comes from, that's what we are? I mean, during COVID, when everyone lost their events and we realized, oh, maybe you were just a trade show company, maybe you were just an events company. I don't think it means just because that's where the majority of the money comes from, that's what our mission is.
Right.
But but
I think a lot of people are
easier.
Yes, no, I think a lot of people are losing sight of mission. And again, mission, money, all both matter equitably with equality. But I do think we're kind of losing that. And I agree. I was yelling back in 2015, 2016 that we were too reliant on annual conference and trade shows. And when COVID happened, it was kind of like, well, there's that bubble, right?
I told you so.
And
You didn't say
I
that.
get
You're
no,
not an
no,
I told you so kind of
no, I
guy.
did. Oh no, I did. If you go back and look at articles, it before and during and after, yes. And but what's interesting now is we haven't then. So the trend overall, right, was we were more a membership organizations till the 70s, 80s. That was the majority of revenue across associations. Then events became this really big, prestigious thing in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, where we got these big name keynotes for 20,000 that really had nothing to do with our industry or technical skills. It was just a hoorah. No one really cares about that outside of maybe taking a photo with them after. Like that's where most of our ticket money is going, not for the little breakouts who are really teaching us how to do our jobs better. And what's happened now, though, so I'll call it now because if the bubble bursts in 5 years, I'm going to reference this episode. Now we have replaced events not with membership again. We went from membership heavy to events heavy. Now we're digital education and certification heavy. So we just pivoted to online. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. At least it's a bit more direct, but it's still, I question what is the right pathway forward for the next decade or two with membership. And
well,
time
with
that
AI
in.
as your competition, I mean, it's not just the internet anymore or that for-profit company. I mean, you have different competition that's moving light speed faster than you are.
Correct.
I have two, again, I want to respect your expertise and get everything out of you I can in this short time. What are your thoughts on inflationary kickers, on CPI adjustments annually?
Okay, so I'm not the biggest fan, and the last 5 to 10 years have shown why. Really, as a millennial, I could say the last 20 years, thinking back to 08, 09. The thing with that is if when the economy when cost of living goes up, like when we're seeing an 8-9% average, first of all, education is usually like 2% still. But so you're looking at the average. But my question I always pose to a client when they say, why don't we just do that? Or a board member is, are you also going to go down in price then when we hit recession?
Yeah, I get down. Mm-hmm.
And usually they say no. They might discount, but they're not going to lower. So unless you're going to properly follow the ups and the downs, you can't go off of those high highs and then sit there. That's fake, right? That's not real. My thing is, I do think there should be an annual like 3-5%. But I don't think when we're, what was it, a year or two ago that we were like, oh, inflation's up 9% for the year on average.
Right.
I don't think that means you go up by 9%. This is my generic formula that is probably, this alone is worth tens of thousands of dollars of me saying it. What I usually tell clients is every year do a 3 to 5%. This is generic. And then about every 3 years, look at the value more deeply. And then when you adjust the value strongly, that's when you might do a 5, 10, even up to 20%, right? Like if it really fits what you're doing, but not every year. Every year, a little bit, train behaviorally, then do some jumps every 3-5 years that are a little bit more substantial. And if you do that, you're going to ride the inflation wave, but you don't follow CPI if you're not going to follow it down as well.
Okay. All right. So here's what I took away. Every 3 to 5 years, do an evaluation of your dues, the value, the return, and what you need, what people will pay. If you're CPI, I disagree with you on this. I think that if you do a 2 to 3% CPI, which is a very U.S. domestic focused number,
it is.
I think that you don't have to take the down because if you have a ceiling of 2 or 3%, you're losing that upper portion on years that are big. That gives you the justification to not give back the negative when it comes. I need to be able to budget. I need to know what to put on my invoices in advance. So I can't be changing it really every year because the CPI doesn't even come out until Q1 of the next year.
Correct.
So I'll disagree with you on that. I think you can take 3 and sleep well at night and just have that be your standard. How does that 3 to 5 year review, in order to make a recalibration, what conversations do you have to have on the what we're giving them side of the equation? Do you need to be able to include something new every time? Do you just need to repackage it? I mean, it's hard to tell a member this is how much it costs to serve you when you don't know yourself, and when they could probably go out and get that stuff for themselves for equal or less.
Correct. Yeah. So I look at a few things there. I think that usually, like three big buckets, I'm looking at data analysis. So what have they been using? Are we sunsetting, which we talked about a lot last time? What are we leaning into? Then I'm looking at value analysis. So what do they want? And this is where, to your answer, sometimes it's bundling, sometimes it's unbundling, sometimes it's just repackaging, sometimes it's something brand new. It could be any of the above. Every company kind of does that. It's like an accordion to me every few years. And then I'm looking at pricing analysis. So based on this going in, what is your perception? What is your
Mhm.
willingness to pay? For example, one thing that we usually see is, let's say it's digital education. Some are killing it, but a lot of them, they might. I'm going to use dummy numbers to keep it simple. Let's say they have 100 members. They realize only about 20 members are really purchasing digital education, and on average, let's say they're spending $10 a year, so $200. That means if you rolled it into membership, you would need to go up by at least $2 across the 100 members, right? But let's say the perception to them is, oh, there is 10, 20, 30, $40 worth of education in there. Maybe I don't need all of it, but there's a lot more. They might say, I'd be willing to go up $5 or $10. Now you're making even more. If you go up to 105 in this scenario, you needed to go up to 102. So not only are you protecting your margins at 102, but you're adding pure profit with the extra three. So that's what I call the peanut butter spread, where you kind of take a isolation and spread it across everyone, and it makes it a little bit more palatable. So that's where you kind of see that's that accordion every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
What are we, or do we pull something out because they're not using it, they don't care, and therefore, you can arrange things, you can remaster membership.
Andrew, do you have a question? If not, I do.
Well,
Yeah,
I know you do. I know you do. I can see you. I can see.
I know. I love it, Elisa.
As soon as,
Anything down
as soon
ready.
as Mike, as soon as Michael said, "Well, there's probably tens of thousands of free consultancy here," you picked up a pen and started writing it down. I was watching you.
Decongested. This isn't just my
No, no.
decongested. I'm actually excited about this.
I guess my question is, I'm going back to the start of the conversation where we said, we've tapped out membership, and I don't know. I guess in the for-profit environment, and maybe none of us know this, but in a for-profit world where they have a product or a service that they are taking to market, do they have this? Do they have the same trouble that we seem to have in the membership world in terms of adequately pricing a product for the market? And I guess because my alarm bells are ringing that something as fundamental as pricing the membership fee or the add-ons to the membership fee seems to be such a very difficult exercise for associations, when this is I mean, you said peanut butter, but this is our bread and butter. This should be what we should not. This should be CAE 101, surely, isn't it? I mean,
Well, that's I would say that what you just said is why we exist. So there are pricing departments at every for-profit company. The CPP that I have, Certified Pricing Professional, I'm the only person out of the, I don't know, there's about 2,000, 3,000 of us now who works in nonprofit. Everyone else works with for-profit entities. They work at all the big medical companies, Starbucks, retail, everything, right? B2C. That's why we hear all about like dynamic pricing at Wendy's and Uber and all that. So no, they don't have as hard of a time because they have in-house counsel, if you will, in-house pricing experts who track the costs, come in, make sure costs are correct. They understand their profit margins. They're looking at data every day. They might adjust prices, right? Because you go to Starbucks, they're doing an increase at least once a year. Netflix emails me usually twice a year. They're looking at this more than every 3 to 5 years and annually some incremental, right? That we're discussing. So no, they're much more mature. If we looked at it at a scale of 1 to 10, some for-profits are still at a 1 or a 2. Some are at a 10. I would say on average, associations are at a 1 or a 2. So there's a lot of opportunity for associations to grow. We think about it. I know my clients, but before we existed, they didn't really have pricing governance policies of how often are we reviewing? Where's the institutional knowledge? What data are we tracking? How are we benchmarking? They did for value. We did membership value surveys every year or two. We do post-event surveys, but for pricing, willingness to pay, conjoint analysis, Gabbard Granger, all of these pricing science methodologies that exist, they're not doing that. And then they're not. So now my clients are benchmarking and saying, okay, over the last 5, 6 years, here's where we've gone, here's where we've grown, here's where we can go. And they have documents with institutional knowledge that are not forgotten when someone leaves, that documents and benchmarks. But no, if you go in, no, they don't have that.
So I want to take a different spin, and I don't know how many of your clients are trade associations, but Andrew and I are committed this year to take a little more of a trade association slant on things. And so I have two questions. In the trade association space, it's very often that you are dealing in tiers or brackets based on revenue or size or whatever the case might be. And what bears out most often is that the small companies, the small members who need you more and want more are the squeakier wheels who pay the least versus the large members who you're asking to pay the most, but are more sophisticated in their own right and therefore don't need a lot of the services. How do you reconcile this traditional trade association model where the people who need you pay the least?
Oh, we've been fighting that battle for quite a while now. So I'm with you on that. It is very different from society. In general, what I find, and you have already hit on it, you probably see the same exact thing. The smaller are the ones that need more of the education because they're not as big to have in-house, and more of the know-how, the resources, the toolkits, where the large, to your point, don't need any of that. They just want a seat at the table for advocacy and for pushing the policies in the direction of the organization. So for me,
really, this is about telling the big boys that they're getting what they need that they can't do themselves. And is it their obligation to pay more? Because
no. Okay, so here's how I word it. And, okay, I'm going to be straight up.
Andrew, you need to drop off your fine. Michael,
this sounds like socialism to me. That's what this sounds like.
Don't leave, Andrew. No, but listen.
Association socialism.
Right. Here's how I look at that. The small do need more from you and they can't afford to pay more. So that's a business case in and of itself. So how do you peanut butter spread? How do you minimize costs, go more digital, right? And try to hit as many people as you can in the easiest way. When it comes to the big dogs, that is where, for me, you might have to have some really hard conversations, and you have to be okay if they walk away because they're probably going to come back. I know it can be scary, but here's the thing. They cannot do advocacy without us. Think beyond the association. They cannot do it in the same way that we can. They can from a separate lens,
That's
right?
True. Yeah.
They have lawyers. They can go to senators, but they cannot in the same way do public, awareness and the same way. So my thing is, we are a part of their ecosystem, and we're a part of their legal, regulatory ecosystem, right? They're profitable, how profitable they can be, regulations, all of that. So my thing is, they need us, we need them, but in a different way. It is not the same transactional. It's much more immaterial. And even when we get the wins, they benefit whether they're a member or not. So what I usually lean into as of the last year or two, because again, what works changes. If you ask me every year, it evolves, right? But the last year or two, what's worked for the most part with the big orgs that are like, why are we paying $50,000 to be a member or $100,000 to be a member when they're paying $3,000? It's saying you not only are you getting a seat at the table, but we intentionally make seats. So is there some kind of a committee where they get to hear what's going on and give a level of influence? It doesn't mean we're doing what they want.
Are you saying they get to buy the board seat? Is that what you're saying?
No, I said committee on purpose, Elisa. But is there certain representation and voice at the table and hearing from the same way you would the small organizations, right? The same way you would have a special interest group for, certain sizes or certain whatever within the industry. So same idea, right? Because the small ones are going to care about certain issues, and you're educating and you're giving toolkits. They're going to need a little bit more one-on-one at that bigger level, and to come in once a quarter or twice a year and say, here's what we're seeing, what's the organization doing about it, here's what we need, and then balancing that with the smaller. The other thing that I'm seeing a lot, I wonder if you all are, tell me this, I'm seeing a lot of mergers and acquisitions within the trades that are served. So what's also happening a lot of times is the bigs are buying the smalls up, they're losing that revenue, but they have a cap on membership for the bigs, so the bigs don't pay more.
I'm anti-cap.
See, no cap. And that's usually when the trades are coming to us specific to the pricing outside of what y'all do and saying, what do we do? Because we're losing money now because they've acquired, 5% or 10% of our membership. They're not paying more. We're losing, and they don't want to pay more. That's when I come in and I say, listen, this is the partnership that you have. And if they walk away, let them, because here's the thing. Okay. This is where you have to think more business, not just association. If they walk away and it is all their competitors who have that seat at the table who don't walk away as well, they're at some point going to feel like, oh, shit, we need to get back to that table. We need influence. So it's kind of like you go to a trade show for ASAE and you see the big, however many LMSs or AMSs. One of them might not go one year because they're mad that the price was raised or the booth isn't at the corner they normally want. But honestly, if you're not there, you're forgotten. So you can play tougher. I look at them like a toddler, which sounds bad, but I feel like I can say that amongst our people. You can throw a hissy fit for a year or two and leave, but you're going to come back. You know what I mean? Yeah. You need us. We need you too. We need you too.
But you mentioned the challenge to that, and you mentioned it briefly, was that free rider advocacy piece, where you're going to get the benefits of the trade associations, government affairs, relationship building, regulatory and legislative efforts, whether you're at that table or not, because they're being focused on as the industry. So as a member of that industry, maybe not a member of the association, you're going to benefit. How do you sell advocacy as a part of the member value benefit ROI equation?
Yeah. So with the bigger ones, for me, it is having that voice at the table. For the smaller ones, it's usually not going to be in the top 3 or even in the top 50% of member benefits. And that's okay. So I think it's saying, here's the wins. Here's what we did for you this year. Like on average, if let's say it's medical, on average, you're probably saving this much, or, we fought this fight for Medicaid or Medicare or whatever. That's great. It's not going to be what they need. So here's how I would say it. When you list the value, let's say it's bullets, right? The member features or benefits or whatever term we want to use, but I call it the value that's in the membership or whatever the product is. You could have 10 bullets. For Andrew, he's going to have a top 2 or 3. For Elisa, you're going to have maybe a different or overlapping top 2 or 3, and I'm going to have something. Knowing the segments of the size or what their problems, their pain points are, you then move those. So when I'm communicating with the smaller, they see the same 10, but their top, the order of 1 through 10 is going to be 1, and then for the big, it's going to be maybe the inverse. And that's okay. So I think you still communicate the wins, but how much it matters to them, you have to know the pain point. That's what I call the value lever. Like, what is the lever that we're pulling to get them to say, I'll pay more for that. That's what I need. I don't care about all of the package. I care about these 5 things the most. And it's going to vary in segmentation.
Well, and it tells me, and Andrew mentioned it specific to the for-profit, we need data. We need to know what our members want. We need to know how they value these things, what that valuation list looks like for them. And I would think the more your members pay, the more you need that information. Maybe 2026 for those who are still at the 1 or 2% or 1 or 2 out of 10 on a pricing sophistication scale. Maybe your first task is data, is finding out what your members are doing, what your non-members are paying for and doing, and what your members really need. Is data the first entry point for everyone?
It is. For us, when we do a project, data is the first one. And there's 4 things I usually look at. So I'll share that. The first is historical price list, but that's more for us for discovery. The second is sales records. I want to see sales, and to the best that we can, align it against like customer IDs or, whatever, so that we can see by segment. That tells me what they're purchasing. Third would be any data on value satisfaction, so we can kind of get an idea of what are they saying. But the fourth one, and this one's the key, is usage. And so what I mean by that is, what are the completion rates? What are they accessing? Because you're going to get to, whenever you think of like a quadrant, like a matrix, they're going to say what they value, but then what are they actually using? That might be 2 separate things, right? They might say, what I'm here for is the education, but are they mostly looking at podcast? Like, how are they getting that, or what briefs or whatever? So I like to look at what are they using and what do they say they want. What they say they want is what they're going to be willing to pay for. But when you also pull in usage, it might give you an extra layer that entices them, and they both work together.
Yeah. All right. So I have one last question. As we are looking to innovate and bring more to the menu, more to the offerings, how do you know, is there a litmus test? This is, you talk about cost to serve. is there some type of equation like, hey, we want to try this, but it's going to cost this much per member? Is there some magic number that says, hey, we can't afford to do that, or that's not, the juice is not going to be worth the squeeze? This is our new here at Association Transformation. What's the rule?
Yes. And I love that. I've seen that too on the episode. So I love that. I think that for me, it goes against willingness to pay. So I use a house as a visual for this. Your cost to serve, let's say to add in that new thing, when you're adding something in, you should know what the hell the cost is. Like you're doing it in real time. So it's not lost in the sauce. So okay, it's going to cost $2 per member to add this thing in. That means if they're not willing to pay at least $2 extra for it, not worth it. Then their willingness to pay through pricing science is the roof. That's the ceiling. That's the most they're willing to pay for this. They might say, we'll pay an extra $10. Then your decision strategically, when you look at mission versus money, is where do we go between $2 and $10? Really $2.01 and $10. How profitable are we? Do we want to go all in at $10? Do we want to go in at $5? And this is where pricing science does help as well with like, what's the fall off? How many people will pay 10 more versus 5 more? How is profitability in both scenarios? And where do we want to land? If it's not profitable, I believe the overall business always has to be profitable. But what I will say in closing is I also think for the most part, every single product should be profitable. You shouldn't have more than 1 or 2 loss leaders in an overall portfolio. And I don't mean just in membership. I mean across every department, certification, education, events, sponsorship, everything. You should be profitable by product line and measuring that. Some will be more than others. So if it's not profitable, it's not a business case. And even though we are a nonprofit, we are a business and we have to have enough money to do what we got to do.
Absolutely. Well, and it may have been a naive question. I think we all know that pricing is more than math. It's perception. It's politics. It's all the
psychology.
The psychology, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, I am a huge fan. I know that you moved to Mexico City this year as well. Are you there now? Yes. Or are you in? Where are you?
I'm in Atlanta right now. I actually just got married this past weekend. And so we're doing some packing right now. Yeah. So we're doing some packing right now. So it's a personal, busy time, but it's good. It's good. So,
I see the hyphenated name. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. That's new. Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
We are so happy for you. And I follow all your world travels. I know you do. You go to the Philippines as well. We're big fans of the Philippines.
We should have done our first AT wedding, shouldn't we? We should have done that. We could have done that, Mike. Let us know.
I'll tell you now, we're going to Taipei City for our annual team retreat the first week of January next year. So we'll be in Taiwan if y'all want to join. And I'll be in Australia too in a few months to talk. So I'll be on that side of the world.
Look at that.
A few times. Yeah, right. We'll plan it.
Michael, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing of these valuable insights. This is a conversation that will never end. And It sounds like a lot of the things we've been chewing on for years and decades are still issues. So thank you so much for sharing with us. Andrew, thanks for sharing Michael with me. I was so glad to be here.
It's a one-time only offer. So
right, that's it, Elisa. That was it. No. Thank you all for having me. Elisa, this was great for my heart. Thanks for all the good questions. I appreciate always being with you and Andrew.
Absolutely. Well, until next time, put your members and your mission first.